Harry, an experienced wildlife photographer, had always dreamed of a trip to Kenya. He was captivated by the beauty of the African landscapes and the diversity of wildlife. After long months of preparation and planning, he finally found himself in the heart of the savannah, where endless expanses stretched to the horizon. The sun slowly rose over the plains, painting the sky in vibrant shades of orange and pink. Every morning, Harry set out on safari in his jeep, armed with his camera and a notebook for notes. He spent hours observing animal life, how zebras grazed peacefully on the grassy plains while herds of antelope cautiously approached the watering hole. But his heart always yearned to capture moments when predators displayed their power and grace. One day, during a morning outing, Harry spotted a small group of lions in the distance. He stopped the jeep and began watching them through his camera lens. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to a lioness named Nala looked particularly vulnerable. Her fur was ruffled, and her eyes were filled with worry. Harry sensed that something was wrong. Nala often remained alone while the other lions hunted and played with each other. Harry decided to approach closer, but not too close. He knew it was important not to disturb the natural order of things. He began to observe Nala from afar, capturing every movement on camera. With each passing day, he noticed more signs of her suffering. She limped on one paw and often yawned from exhaustion. This was a troubling sign for an experienced wildlife photographer. Harry spent several days observing Nala. He recorded his observations in his notebook. Nala is alone more than 70% of the time. She does not hunt with the group. It seems she is losing weight. These notes became increasingly alarming. Harry realized that the lioness needed help. One evening, he decided to return to Nala's habitat in hopes of seeing her again. The sun was setting behind the horizon, casting golden hues over the savannah. Harry settled on a hill with a good view and began to wait. Soon he saw Nalashe slowly emerge from the bushes and headed toward the watering hole. But instead of drinking water, she stopped and looked around warily. Harry felt a deep sympathy for this lioness. He recalled how many times he had seen similar scenes in the wild animals, struggling for survival in the harsh reality of life. But now it felt personal. He felt connected to Nala. The next day, Harry decided to take action. He contacted a local wildlife conservation organization via satellite phone and told them about Nala's situation. The specialists were concerned by his report and agreed to send a team to assess the lioness's condition. While waiting for help, Harry continued to monitor Nala every day, documenting changes in her behavior and health status. He noticed that other lions began to ignore her. They did not approach her closely and even sometimes pushed her away during hunts. It was a cruel reminder of how merciless nature can be. Every evening, Harry returned to camp with new photographs and notes about Nala. His heart filled with hope that help would arrive soon. He knew that without intervention, the situation could become critical for this beautiful animal. With each passing day, Harry became increasingly concerned about Nala's condition. He noticed that the lioness was not only suffering physically, but also emotionally. She often sat apart, isolated from her group, and even when the other lions were hunting, she showed no interest. This was unlike her previous behavior. Nala had always been active and playful, but now she appeared dejected. One day, Harry witnessed one of the males from the pride approach Nala. He was large and strong, with a majestic mane that flowed in the wind. But instead of showing care or protection, he merely shoved Nala roughly in the side, causing her to retreat. Harry felt a mix of anger and sadness. This was a cruel reminder of how merciless nature could be. Determined to understand more about the pride dynamics, Harry decided to spend more time observing them. He set up his camp near their usual habitat and began documenting every interaction among them. He noticed that the other lions started to avoid Nala. They not only refused to hunt with her, but even denied her access during their rest under the shade of trees. One day, Harry saw Nala attempt to approach the group during a hunt. She crept slowly toward them, hoping to be accepted back. But as she took a step forward, one of the females growled at her and chased her away. It was a heartbreaking sight for Harry. He understood that Nala was not only physically injured, but also emotionally broken. Harry began to explore possible reasons for her condition. He recalled that lions live in complex social structures. If one individual becomes weak or sick, it can threaten the entire group. In the wild, survival of the fittest is a law of life, but he also knew that Nala had a chance for recovery. After several days of observation, Harry concluded that he could not just sit idly by and watch Nala suffer. He understood the risks of human intervention in wild ecosystems, but his heart urged him to act. He contacted the local wildlife conservation organization again and detailed the situation. The specialists were impressed by his observations and agreed to send a team to assess Nala's condition. They explained their plan of action. A team of veterinarians would use special equipment to sedate the lioness and examine her wound. It was a risky endeavor. Intervening in the lives of wild animals always carries dangers for both humans and animals. While waiting for help, Harry continued to monitor Nala every day. He noticed changes in her behavior. She became more aggressive toward other animals. Perhaps it was a way to protect herself from threats posed by the pride or other predators. But this aggression also meant further isolation. Other lions avoided her even more. When the veterinary team finally arrived in the savannah after several days, Harry greeted them with excitement and hope. They brought with them necessary equipment, tranquilizers, and medical tools for performing surgery on site. The specialists explained to Harry the process. They would work quickly and carefully to minimize stress for Nala. Harry accompanied the team to where the lions were residing. His heart raced with anticipation. He knew this could be a turning point for Nala. As they approached closer to the pride, the veterinarians began preparing for the procedure. Finally, they spotted Nala lay under a tree in the shade, looking tired and dejected. The team carefully set up their tranquilizing equipment at a distance and began their work. The veterinarian aimed and released an arrow with sedative. Within minutes, Nala began to fall asleep. Harry watched with bated breath. He understood how crucial this moment was for both the lioness and the entire savannah ecosystem. When Nala finally fell completely asleep, the veterinarians quickly approached her with medical equipment. The operation went smoothly. They discovered a deep wound on Nala's paw that had become inflamed due to infection. They cleaned it out and stitched it up. Then they performed necessary procedures to treat the infection. Once everything was done, the team gently woke Nala from anesthesia. She slowly opened her eyes and looked around in confusion. Harry felt relief wash over him. The operation had been successful. After the successful operation, Nala was slowly regaining her strength. Harry, sitting nearby, watched her with hope and anxiety. He knew that recovery could take time and that the lioness would be vulnerable during this period. Every time she tried to rise to her paws, Harry felt his heart skip a beat, feared she would fall again or be unable to cope with the pain. A few days later, Nala began to show signs of improvement. She moved slowly around her usual habitat, albeit with evident caution. Harry noticed that she had become more attentive to the surrounding sounds and movements. He understood that this was her way of protecting herself from potential threats. But even as Nala physically recovered, emotional scars remained. She still avoided interaction with other lions. Even when they hunted nearby, she preferred to stay in the shade of the trees. Harry felt a deep sadness for these beautiful creatures. He was not only physically wounded, but also emotionally isolated. One evening, as the sun set on the horizon and painted the savannah in warm shades of orange and purple, Harry noticed something remarkable. Nala suddenly lifted her head and looked at a group of lions. Something flickered in her eyes, perhaps hope or a desire to return to her pride. It was a touching sight. Harry felt a surge of emotion. He knew this could be the beginning of her return to normal life. With each passing day, Nala grew more confident. She began taking small steps toward the group of lions. Sometimes she would simply sit at the edge of their line of sight and watch them. Harry felt joy at these changes. He saw how the lioness was starting to regain her strength and confidence. But not everything went smoothly. One morning, Harry witnessed one of the males starting to show aggression toward Nala again. He growled at her and tried to chase her away from the group. It was a brutal sight. Harry felt anger and helplessness at once. He understood that nature does not forgive weakness. Nala tried to resist. She growled back and bared her teeth. But the male was stronger. He pushed her so hard that she fell to the ground. At that moment, Harry felt a rush of adrenaline. He knew he had to intervene. But how? He was just a human among wild animals. In that critical moment, something unexpected happened. Other lions began to intervene. The females from the group approached Nala and started protecting her from the aggressive male. It was an incredibly touching sight. They stood beside her as if creating a protective circle around their friend. Harry felt tears in his eyes. He understood that this was a moment of true strength in animal community. Nala was not lioness, had friends and defenders among her pride. Over time, Nala fully returned to her group. She began hunting again with other lions and even participated in games with young members of the pride. Harry watched this process with joy. His heart swelled with pride for being able to help this amazing creature. However, life in the savannah is always full of surprises. One night, a fierce storm broke out. Thunder rumbled overhead while lightning tore through the dark sky. Harry sheltered in his camp under a sturdy awning, but his thoughts were with Nala and her pride. The next morning, the storm had subsided, but the savannah looked completely different. Trees were downed and rivers had overflowed their banks. When Harry emerged from his shelter, he saw a group of lions. They were anxious and disoriented after the storm. Nala stood at the edge of her usual habitat. Her fur was ruffled by the wind, and her eyes were filled with worry. She searched for her pride members among the chaos around them. Harry felt a deep connection with this lioness. He understood her fears and anxieties as well as his own. He decided to help her find the other members of their group together. They could cope with the aftermath of the storm. Harry began exploring the surroundings with Nala in search of other lions from their pride. They navigated through fallen trees and flooded areas. Each step was difficult for both him and Nala after her recent injury. Suddenly they heard loud growls nearby with sounds of struggle. Harry's heart raced. He knew he had to act quickly. They headed toward the source of the sounds and soon saw a group of predators. A few hyenas surrounded one of Nala's pride males. Harry felt a surge of fear. He understood how dangerous this situation was for his lioness friend and for the male. But instead of running away or hiding behind trees, Nala stepped forward. She roared as loudly as she could. It was incredibly brave. The hyenas turned toward her in confusion. They clearly did not expect such determination from an injured lioness. At that moment, other males from their group also came to help. They began banding together against their attackers. The battle was fierce. Sounds of growling mixed with sounds of struggle between predators and lions. But thanks to Nala's bravery, they managed to drive off the hyenas. When everything calmed down, Harry felt an incredible relief. His heart swelled with pride for this strong lioness. After this incident, life in the savannah gradually returned to normalcy. Nala reclaimed her place among the pride. She became a symbol of spirit strength for all animals around her. Each day she grew more confident now. She knew that despite life's challenges in nature, she had friend support. Harry continued documenting Nala's life through his camera lens. His photographs became true works of art. They captured moments of triumph over adversity and recovery from suffering. One morning he woke up early to shoot sunrise over the savannah. As the sun began rising above the horizon, painting the world in bright colors of a new day, he saw Nala against golden light. She stood proudly on a hilltop with head held high. It symbolized new life after all trials. In that moment, Harry realized, despite all nature's challenges and harshness in wild world, there is room for hope and recovery. He took several shots of this majestic scene. Each frame reflected this amazing animal's spirit strength. And although life continued with its challenges for all creatures in savannah, Nala's story became an inspiration for many people around the world.